everybody. Sunday the 27th today. Thought I'd come up Oldham and do a video. I've actually filmed it the other day, to be fair, but it was crap, so I've come up to do it again. Just thought I'd show you. These have been in another video, but this is a local interest centre, and these two lions that you see here, when the old Oldham Town Hall burnt down, they were ablaze at the top. You can see them. I've got a photo actually that you'll probably be able to see now, and it shows the bloody hell, shows on pinned flames. But yeah, now they've chained and cemented outside the local interest. I mean, look at town. This is Sunday. It's about 20 past 11. Jesus. Anyway, there's the Oldham Library. I'm going to do a video on the library soon. There's a big story behind that, and specifically that lady on the top. I'll go into that into another video. But I wanted to do, God, it's cold. I wanted to do a video on two statues in Oldham. So we've got the War Memorial at the top, which we'll walk up to now, and we've got the statue of Robert Ascroft, which is in Alexandra Park. Some people know where Ascroft were, but a lot of people have got no clue. Now, do you see this back end of the church, the town hall? When it was originally built, the town hall, it wasn't as big as this. It actually had, when it was built in 1850 something, I think it was probably just the original big brick building that you can see up there, I'm guessing, because it had an extension. Now, because this is all the same, I'm guessing this was probably this is the extension anyway, but I don't know how much of it is the extension, is what I'm saying. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is the chap that designed this was a guy called Thomas Taylor, an Oldham architect. He did loads of buildings in Oldham, including the War Memorial, but we'll get to that in a minute. But he also did the Grand Theatre. God, what else did he do? Mine's gone completely bloody blank. Loads of stuff around. Oh, I mean, like, you know, the main co-op building at the bottom of Ripondon Road. I don't know what's up with me. I'm knackered walking up this hill. Probably because I've been sat on my backside for days doing nothing but boozing. Yeah, so Thomas Taylor, Oldham architect. I don't think he basically had his practice on Yorkshire Street in a place called York Chambers. Now, York Chambers, I've walked past it. It's actually just outside at Pizza and Potato Factory. We'll go down to it shortly. I'll show it you, because it's a beautiful building. Oh God, look at them shutters. Shutters on the windows. In fact, they're all the way down. Yeah. Right, okay, let's get to the memorial. So this, everybody, that's Yorkshire Street. You've got the Hare and Hounds pub just there, that West Bank. The Greaves, which is now Cafe East. That's been bought, it's being done up into a cafe. It's been going on for ages, that, but it's been since before lockdown. And then TJU's, which is shut. Town Square's shut. I thought we're level 4 now. I don't watch the news anymore, so I ain't got a clue. And then you've got the statue of Annie Kenny. Suffragette. And the beautiful front of the town hall. So, the War Memorial. Now, this War Memorial, as I said, it was designed by Thomas Taylor. Now, it wasn't created by Thomas Taylor, i.e. he didn't do the sculpture. That was a man called Albert Toft. Now, Albert Toft did a load of memorials up and down the country. I'll list a few of them. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the interesting thing is, you know the chap on top? That there's 5 soldiers, and it's to denote them going over the wall, I think they called it, when they was in the trenches and what have you. But the man in the top there, that particular casting, see, I always thought that that was just in Oldham, but it's not. That particular figure with his foot on a shell, that's on quite a lot of Albert's sculptures. But yeah, it's made out of bronze, and the plinth's made out of granite. And Thomas Taylor, the architect, I think the old cost of the project was, they raised £20,000 to complete the project. And there was lots of things that they did. So they produced the monument that you can see today, and they the rest of it, the money they used for scholarships for the children of the men, you know, that had died in the war, they used it to help them. I don't actually know how much was left over. I don't think I've managed to find that out, but yeah, so these walls here, now assuming this church wall must have always been here like this, but in any event, they all these are bronze, I believe. And this war memorial was first brought into play after the First World War, the First Great War, and obviously then we had the Second, so it bears the names of not only the men from the First World War but also the Second. Now the other thing that's interesting to know about this, and I'm sorry if there's wind noise, but I'm not doing any voiceovers today, this is all grade 2 listed, the memorial, and also everything that you see here, including the steps, they're all grade 2 listed. Let's have a walk up. So love this church, I think it's beautiful. If you haven't seen, if you go to my videos, I do a video on it and I explain why it's called St Margaret's, St Peter's, and that's because if you look at the back there, that vestry, what they call it, just there, that was built from the old St Peter's church. So there you go. So that'll show you this as well, because it says, "To the glory of God and the memory of all brave men who fought and fell in the World War." Now this says, "Erected by numerous small subscriptions given by friends in the vicinity of Oldham Church, Easter 1919. Oh, look at this. Now, this is the Victoria Cross receivers. Now, if you watch my channel, I didn't know this was here. You'll know that I did a video on Sergeant John Hogan. He was a Victoria Cross awarded sergeant, and yeah, when he came back from the First World War, he ended up going selling matches on the street of Manchester. He didn't have anything. A lot of people have hardship in that time. Walter Mills is another one. I haven't done a video on Walter, and I've certainly not done one on Thomas Steele yet, but I will do. I wonder what he did. I mean, you've got 2 sergeants and then you've got a private. Interesting, I'll find out. And one thing before we go back to the statue, God, the Google. Look at this. It says WB, I don't know what that means. 1722, here relief the body of William Booth, Senior of Royton, Yeoman, who was buried on the 13th day of April, Anno Domini 1725. Also Sarah, his wife, his first wife. Have you noticed this, right? Look at this, look at this, look at this. Do you see where it says his Firth? It looked like Firth. That's how they did S's back then, or that was an S, I don't know. And his wife died in 1692. How good is that? Anyway, let's get back to the video. Anyway, when the statue was opened, when they unveiled it, There were 10,000 people in the streets around here, and there were even people sat on top of the roof of the Greaves. There were that many, and I think the guy, I'm sorry, I'm trying to go off memory as I do in all my videos, you know what I'm like. I think he was called Sir Ian Wilkinson. Probably got that completely wrong. I'll put a correction in if I need to. But he unveiled it along with the Bishop of Manchester. Now the Bishop of Manchester, he ended up being, I'll put his name in because I can't remember that either, I think it was Ian Kelly. But he ended up being the Archbishop of Canterbury. So a very important person. But anyway, yeah, this general, and he was a general that opened the memorial. It's freezing up here. He twice they wanted to give him the Victoria Cross. Right. The first time they decided they weren't going to give it him because he was too young, and then the second time they said they weren't going to give it him because he was too senior. So twice in his life he did two very important things that would have, you know, that would have resulted in him receiving the Victoria Cross, and both times he didn't get it. That's strange. And look at this here. Albert Toft, 1921, so that's the signature of the chap that made it. Right, what we're going to do now, we're going to go down to York Chambers. I'll show you York Chambers, and then I think we'll make our way to Alexandra Park because I want to show you Robert Ascroft. So, let's go. Right, I made a mistake. I'm getting confused between York Chambers and the Halifax Chambers, and the reason being is they ended up working from York, but that was, one of his partners ended up working from York, but this is where he worked from, Thomas Taylor, and it was called the Halifax Building. Now I don't know if it was the Halifax Bank or whether it was just his architectural practice, but this is the side of the building. You can just sort of see the Halifax bit there. I don't know if it was the Halifax Bank or whether it was the Halifax Building. If anybody knows, let me know. But anyway, his office was here. So actually, if you think about it, if it was one of those offices up there, depending on where it was, you'd be able to see his handiwork, I suppose, or every time he came out. Just thought we'd walk down the back of here. Now, these old streets, I don't think I've ever walked down here in my life, to be honest with you. Seriously, don't think I have. Look at these old houses. People would have lived in these, wouldn't they, years ago? Oh, that's interesting. No, this isn't Queen Street. Now, Robert Ascroft, who we're going seeing, he was in his career when he first started out, his father was a solicitor, and he ended up being a solicitor. Now, where this car park is, there must have been houses because he lived at number 10 Queen Street. Now that building there is number 9, so I'm thinking directly adjacent. But I don't know because, I know this is where it was, but my granddad told me years ago, he's dead now so I can't ask him again, but he told me that in here there was like a theatre type thing, or there was some sort of hall and there was a piano, and I think he said there was a grand piano in the base. I can't remember, there was a story about it. But every time I came to this car park, and it was actually before they developed it, it was just a wall and like a waste ground. I just thought I'd do a sort of sweep of the Oldham skyline for you. Excuse me, for the people that don't live in Oldham anymore. You might be surprised at how much it's changed. Literally, there's one chimney that I can see from the old mills. I'm not going to sweep right round because there's some people parked in the car and I don't want to think I'm nosying on them. But look at that, that's the mill. Apart from that, there's nothing. Just all flat ground. We've got the church spire. For some reason won't focus. And well, look how beautiful the park is today. It's actually, it was freezing in Oldham. Do you see that sun? It's actually belting down. Feels, apart from the wind, it feels quite warm. Look, there's the fountain going today. That was donated by Mayor of Oldham, Josiah Radcliffe, back in mid-1800s. He, incidentally, John Platt there, he had an older brother called James. Josiah blew James's leg off on up near Duststones. They had a hunting lodge up there called Ashway Gap, and trying to bloody trying to shield this wind. Yeah, they had a hunting lodge called Ashway Gap, and John's older brother was there, and Josiah, who bought the fountain, he slipped on a rock. He had a gun in his hand, and he slipped on a rock and stumbled, and as he went, he shot accidentally. He was actually a member of the family, they were all related, and yeah, he blew his calf off. So they carried him back to Ashway Gap, and they called for doctors to come from Stalybridge, Manchester, Oldham, to try and save his life. They carried him up the steps, and they laid him out on the bed, and there was nothing they could do for him. I think it must have blown a main artery, and yeah, he was 36, I think. He was also MP for Oldham, but then once he passed his brother John, who's on the statue, he then took over, and yeah, the rest is history. Right, we're going to get to Robert in just a couple of seconds. Right, here we have it. So this is Robert Ascroft. He was MP for Oldham from 1895 to 1899. Now, the only reason he was no longer an MP for Oldham in 1899 was because, sadly, he passed away. He died really young. I think he was only about 58. Now, let's start with what he did. So, he was a solicitor. That was what he did. And he realised that there was a great deal of injustice for the workers of Oldham. You know, the people that worked in the mills, they were working long hours in bad conditions for little to no money. And he basically lobbied Parliament, I think it was, to basically get better working rights. So that's why they named him the workers' friend. But he was a very, very, very clever man. And just take a look at that face. First thing that struck me about this statue when I saw it was how lifelike his face was. I mean, he literally looks like he's just going to turn around to you and say hello. That's what I think anyway. And the statue is made of bronze. Now, a couple of things about Robert. He was an MP for Oldham. Now, Winston Churchill became MP of Oldham in 1900, which is basically just after Robert, so he took over from Robert. But the thing is, Robert took Winston Churchill under his wing because Winston had come back from, I think it was the Boer War, and he was a war hero, and Robert noticed that he had potential, so he basically took a young Winston Churchill under his wing and showed him the ropes. Now, Winston, when he wrote his autobiography, I think they mentioned somewhere that in chapter 6 he mentions Ascroft, he talks about him, but he was a friend. And the other thing that's to note, when this statue was opened, it was Winston Churchill himself that opened it. He came over, and I imagine he said quite a few words about his friend, and then he opened it. This was back in 1903. This was before anyone knew what Winston Churchill was capable of. But yeah, now all around here there were thousands of people who'd come to see it open. Now, the other thing that you need to know about the statue, which is quite interesting, it was sculpted by F.W. Pomeroy. Now, F.W. Pomeroy, I think we can see a signature here actually on the side. Yeah, we can. Yeah, I'll show it you. F.W. Pomeroy was a wonderful sculptor. I mean, again, when I said to you before, if you just look at the quality of this statue itself, you can understand. But just to give you a little bit of context, F.W. Pomeroy did the statue that stands above the Old Bailey, you know, Lady Justice with the scales. He did that. So it just shows you the level of competency, and you know, like, just shows you the you know, the sort of level of artists that they were dealing with. Right, while I'm in the park, I think we'll go and have a look at Joseph, the blind bellman of Oldham. Must be doing some work on the pagoda, they call it, don't they? Anyway, this is the statue of Joseph. Joseph, the blind bellman of Oldham. Basically, a bellman is a town crier. This was voluntary subscription, public subscription, basically. 40 years he spent in Oldham. Yeah, I'll show you the inscription. Joseph Howarth, upwards of 40 years, the well-known bellman of Oldham, blind bellman, erected by voluntary subscription, presented to the park in 1868. He died on the 17th day of May 62 in 76. 76 years he lived. How good is that? This is grade 2 listed, this statue. And apparently had a remarkable memory. Remarkable. I think it's the only, I think I read this somewhere, that it's the only statue in the UK where someone's wearing a top hat. I'm sure I've heard something about that. Now, funnily enough, I know exactly where Joseph's buried. I'm pretty sure I've got a photograph of his grave. And he's buried in Chadderton Cemetery, but he's not buried on his own. He's in with a family. Nobody of the same name. He's in with a family, and yeah, the actual, well, you see yourself when I show it you, the tombstone is absolutely full of names. So I don't know if maybe they were friends, or maybe we were related, and he, you know, he went in. I've no idea. Let's look at one, which is just down here, and then we'll call it quits, because I'm going to go home and I'm going to get in a bath and soak. I think I'm absolutely fleeing. So this is Rebecca at the well. Not the original statue, unfortunately. The original was toppled in the 60s by some, I don't know, I'm assuming some idiot, because why, you'd have to be an idiot to want to do that, wouldn't you, to a statue that was, you know, a few 100-year-old. But yeah, she's a recreation, as is I'm with the flower girl at the front. But yeah, apparently the artist used his niece as a model for this, and they've basically done the best that they can. I'm trying to get it on camera for you. They've basically done the best that they can to sort of bring it back to what it was, but no one knows exactly what the original looked like. But they had a couple of photos for reference. So yeah, that's it. Right, I will call it quits at that, and I will see you in the next one.